Now, part and parcel of what's going to happen when we start saying that this is bullshit and insufficient is that we're going to start to hear about religious values, religious principles, the importance of morality and a good society, and that in a good society, the kind of indifference that we're experiencing is in fact appropriate because that's what's good for the nation. We also have to demonstrate the extent to which that is bullshit. Many of us are coming from countries where, as part of our independence movements, there was all kinds of rhetoric about power to the people, about inclusion, about a new way of working, about Master's Day being done. Yet somehow when it comes to our populations, all of that gets parked to the side. Somehow on those populations, the kind of brutality that police, for example, used to mete out to subjugated populations, somehow that's appropriate behavior when it comes to us. And parliamentarians feel like they have a right to stand up in Parliament, in the media, and to make these kinds of statements, and somehow it will not, it will pass and it will not be confronted. That has to stop. There are too many fora in which governments are making agreements, are making commitments on the basis of principles of decency and fair relations and honesty and the rest of it, and somehow the way in which they treat our communities is exempted from all of that, and that bullshit has got to stop as well. The idea that homosexuality is a Western invention is also bullshit that has got to stop. There are too many of us in this room and who are in their home countries who are living gay lives, who are the recent generation, the upcoming generation, who know people generations before them who have been gay in their communities for decades, and somehow that is invisible. That has to stop. The idea that that invisibility is part of national purity has to stop. We have to find ways to be heard. We have to find ways to confront that kind of strategic silencing of our historical and indigenous presence in societies all over the world, including the developing world. I think one of the most important institutions, and I stand with the others, with Shiv, who asked where was the UN on this 5 years ago. I started CVC about, how long ago was that, 6, 7 years ago? And one of the first things I tried to do was to work with the UN around homophobia and homosexuality. A UN agency gave me $10,000, $10,000, which is not a lot of money in a UN budget, I promise you. And they told me to do with it what I pleased. I had a regional meeting for about 45 gay, lesbian, and transgender people. They didn't speak to me for the next year. That bullshit also has to stop. The UN is premised on issues of democracy, on good government, on social inclusion, yet somehow they've taken a back seat. Now, UNDP has been leading the charge, trying to make a difference, as has UNAIDS. And we're very lucky to have people like Mandeep, like Richard, and others who are here, who are pushing the UN system to behave differently. But these are global-level advocates. And the bottom line is the UN needs to step up at country level. There needs to be some accountability so that when people refuse to take on the issues of homophobia, when people refuse to take on the failure of the national program to deal with this, and the failure of governments to hold the national program accountable to this, that somehow the silence is appropriate and the UN becomes complicit with that, and that has also got to stop. It is bullshit. My last point. None of this can work unless civil society has the funds and the resources to move.